EVO. The night shift attendant at the rental return had a name tag that said Trevor, and a tone that said he'd heard stranger things than this before his shift even started. "You want me to flag the vehicle?" he repeated, typing slowly. "And for what exactly?" Cole tried again. The Bluetooth, the voice, the name that wouldn't disconnect. Trevor nodded like he was listening, then turned the monitor slightly so Cole could see it for himself. "I believe you," he said. "I do. But pulling a unit out of active rotation needs an incident report, and an incident report takes a minimum of 5 business days to process before the vehicle's flagged in the system. Until then, it's just a car with an open reservation, dude. Yours." Welcome back to The Devil Within. This is the Campfire Files, true stories that followed them home. You're listening to Ghost Profile Episode 2, What the Car Remembers. Stay through this one before you make your next travel plans, because the part of this story that should worry you the most isn't the car. It's those 5 days. Cole and Maren weren't the first people to ask that rental counter to take this particular vehicle out of service. In fact, they were the 7th. Sylvia Plath wrote Lady Lazarus in October of 1962, and it's a poem about coming back from the dead on a schedule. Every 10 years, like clockwork, like a trick performed for a paying crowd, the speaker describes herself as something put on display, brought back again and again by hands that aren't her own, for an audience that shows up expecting the show to repeat. And there's a specific kind of horror in that. Not the dying, the repetition. The idea that you might not be the only one this has happened to, and you won't be the last. Tonight's story is about a vehicle that has apparently been performing the same trick with a rotating cast for longer than anyone at the rental counter wants to admit. Chapter 1. The Complaint File. They didn't get a different car. There wasn't one. Not at that hour, not with their reservation locked into a 5-day block that the system wouldn't let Trevor break without a manager's override, blah, blah, blah. And the manager wasn't going to be there until Monday anyway. "You can keep driving it," Trevor said. "Or you can eat the non-refundable deposit and figure out your own way to uncertain tonight. Those are the 2 options I've got for you, man." They drove back to the cabin. Neither of them slept on the way there. Maren in the passenger seat with her phone brightness turned all the way down, working through every public complaint database she could find, because if Trevor wasn't going to take this seriously, somewhere a paper trail might. And she found it on the 3rd site she tried. A consumer complaint registry that car rental companies are required to report certain incidents to. The kind of database built for billing disputes and broken air conditioning, mostly ignored by anyone who isn't specifically looking. 6 complaints filed against the same vehicle identification number over the previous 18 months. A blown-out infotainment screen that wouldn't power down. A GPS that rerouted itself toward an unlisted address. 2 reports of a paired device that reappeared after deletion. One of them naming a phone that wasn't Roy's. But it was a name that Maren didn't recognize at all, attached to a renter who'd returned the car 9 months before Roy Henley ever touched it. "It's not just him," she said. "It's not even just one of him." Cole kept his eyes on the road, on the long, flat dark between the highway and the lake, headlights catching nothing but pine trunks and the occasional flash of a possum's eyes in the ditch. "What's the date on the oldest complaint?" he asked. Maren scrolled up. 18 months, right after a software update. Some patch that the manufacturer pushed to the whole fleet at once. Before that, there was nothing. This car's clean its whole service life, and then one update and suddenly there's a pattern. It read like a manufacturing defect. A bad line of code, a corrupted file somewhere in the system that had started behaving in ways that nobody at the company had bothered to trace back to its source, because tracing it back would mean admitting the problem existed, and admitting it existed would mean a recall, and a recall costs more than 7 unhappy customers and a missing man that nobody had officially connected to any of it. Independent researchers who've spent years grading connected vehicles on privacy and security have not been kind to the industry as a whole. Entire fleets, year after year, scoring worse than nearly any other consumer product category these researchers had ever reviewed. Worse than smart speakers? Yeah. Worse than fitness trackers, but you should be careful. Worse than the apps people worry about far more often. Nobody had needed a haunted car to make that case. The data alone had already made it. Or, Maren said, her voice dropping, it found something in the update that it didn't have before. They didn't talk about what that something might be. They didn't have to. The dashboard screen, dark since the gas station, flickered once. Not on, not fully, just a pulse of light behind the glass, there and gone, like something testing whether they were still paying attention. The road narrowed as they got closer to the lake, the pines pressing in tighter on both sides, the highway stripes giving way to a country road with no center line at all, just two ruts worn into asphalt that hadn't been resurfaced since before either of them were born. Cole found himself gripping the wheel harder than the driving required, the way you grip something when some part of you no longer fully trusts that it's yours to hold. They pulled into the cabin's gravel drive a little after 1 a.m. Cypress trees stood black against a sky gone the color of wet ash, and the lake behind the porch light was so still, it looked less like water than like something holding its breath. Cole cut the engine. The headlights stayed on for 3 full seconds after the key turned, illuminating nothing but trees and the dark water past them, before they finally, reluctantly, got out of the car. Chapter 2. The Second Name. Sleep didn't come easy in a cabin with one road in and the same SUV parked 20 feet from the bedroom window, but exhaustion eventually won the argument Fear had been having with it all night. Maren woke first, somewhere past 3, to the particular wrongness of a sound that doesn't belong to a place this remote. An engine, idling. She got up. She pulled back the curtain. The SUV sat in the gravel exactly where Cole had parked it. Headlights dark, but the dashboard inside glowed faint blue through the windshield, and the engine was running. She woke up Cole. They went out together, barefoot on the gravel still warm from the day's heat, and found the driver's door unlocked, the screen lit, the Bluetooth menu open on its own. 2 devices now. Roy's iPhone, and below it, a second name that hadn't been there 9 hours earlier. Bailey's iPad. Well, who's Bailey? Cole asked, though some part of him already understood the question wasn't really about a name. It was about how many names there were going to end up being, and how long the list had been growing before they ever climbed into this car at all. Maren typed it into her phone with hands that weren't entirely steady. It took less time to find than Roy had. A missing persons flyer from 4 years earlier, faded in the way only small-town newspaper archives fade. A family of 3 who'd rented a vehicle from the same regional fleet for a weekend at the lake and never checked into their cabin. The case had gone cold inside a year. Local search and rescue had found the vehicle, eventually, parked at a boat ramp 2 miles from where they were standing now. Doors unlocked, keys still in it, nobody inside. The sound of the engine, idling in front of them, shifted. It didn't get louder, it didn't get faster, but somehow heavier. Maren kept reading, scrolling past the flyer to a follow-up article from a year later. A short item buried on a back page about the search being formally suspended without resolution. No bodies, no answers. Just a boat ramp, an unlocked car, and a family that the article referred to almost gently as, quote, presumed lost to the lake. A phrase that told you everything about how little anyone actually knew, dressed up to sound like a conclusion instead of the shrug that it was. 4 years, she said. And the car just went back into rotation, cleaned, repaired, released. Like none of it happened. The navigation screen blinked awake. It drew the same route it had tried to draw the day before, the same destination pin east of the lake, the same line cutting through green country that didn't show up on any map either of them had ever needed to use. Except this time, beneath the destination, a single word appeared where an estimated arrival time should have been. Soon. So manufacturers have known for years that connected vehicles hold on to more than anyone driving them realizes. Contacts, locations, the names of people who've never set foot in the passenger seat of that car. Consumer advocates have spent the better part of a decade pushing for mandatory data wipes between drivers, for software audits, for some baseline guarantee that a stranger's information doesn't just sit there waiting. Most of those pushes have moved slower than the technology they're trying to regulate. Reports indicate the industry has treated this, again and again, as a customer service inconvenience rather than a safety failure. Something to apologize for in a press release, not something to fix before the next renter gets in. Tonight's story asks what's left behind when a car holds on to more than data, when it holds on to an outcome, and keeps trying patiently to finish it. Plath's Lady Lazarus tells her audience, almost casually, that dying is a craft she's gotten unsettlingly good at through repetition. She didn't choose to get good at it. It kept happening to her, again and again, on a schedule someone else set. Roy didn't choose this. Whoever Bailey was 4 years and 1 software update ago didn't choose it either. And the car parked outside that cabin window wasn't performing a trick for the first time. It had an audience before Cole and Maren ever arrived. And reports indicate if the complaint records are anything close to complete, it's going to have one after them too. Next time on The Devil Within, the road the car has been trying to take them down for 2 days finally opens up in front of them. And Cole and Maren learn exactly what's waiting at the end of it, and exactly how many people have already arrived. That's next time on the Campfire Files from The Devil Within. The Devil Within is an EVO production, recorded live at Bel Air Studios in Los Angeles, California. For The Devil Within, I'm your writer and host, Brandon Morgan.